how do you quantify it? How do you measure it? There's no denying that evil takes place. You know, like you could come up with any number of massacres throughout history, and you say that's an evil act.
There's no question.
Right. So
right.
evil is a thing that's real.
If there's good, there's evil.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there have been many, many things that people have done. You're like, wow, good exists in the world. There is still good. So we know both those things are real things. We just don't know what's the root of them all. And are there really angels and demons, or are those the scapegoats for this bizarre dance of good and evil that just exists in the world?
Mm-hmm. Well, if it weren't, for Adam and Eve eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, there wouldn't be any perception of good and evil. It'd just be true or false. Which is, the reason that Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden, because in the beginning, it was, they were living in a world of either, truth or falsehood.
You're right.
And after eating the fruit of the difference between good and evil, they became opinionated. Oh, that's good, I like it. That's bad, I don't like it. But the issue of true or false got, it became muddled.
Yeah.
And they no longer were fit inhabitants of the Garden of Eden, paradise.
That was a crazy movie because it was a great movie, but it seemed like there was resistance to that movie.
Oh yeah, no, there was,
which I thought was very strange. There was like Hollywood resistance to that movie. Like people didn't like that you were making it. It seemed like
there was a lot of opposition to it, and I don't know. I think if you ever hit on that subject matter, you're gonna get people going, because
of course
it's big subject matter, and it's like and my contention is, when I was making it was like, you're making this film and the idea was that we're all responsible for this, that his sacrifice was for all mankind, and that for all our ills and all the things in our fallen nature, it was a redemption. So, and I believe that, I actually am, I was born into a Catholic family. I'm very Christian in my beliefs, So I do actually believe this stuff to the full.
Because of this claim that they say they saw Jesus resurrected. Like there's something different that goes on there, that they're like, this is a miracle, right? Dead people don't usually rise from the dead.
So what is your personal belief when it comes to the resurrection? What do you think happened? Do you have a belief, or do you just try to interpret the text and try to see what is the message?
Well, I think, so as a historian, I do think it is a historical question. You have a guy who objectively lived, he objectively died, and then individuals close to his inner circle claim that they see him not dead.
Right.
Again.
This is a highly unusual activity.
Highly unusual.
Right. So, but it's hard when you're dealing with illiterate populations, you're dealing with thousands of years of time, you're dealing with an oral tradition, and then you have us sitting here talking about it in 2024, trying to figure it at the end of 2024, trying to figure this out. Literally the end.
Yeah.
Last couple of days. It's very difficult for anybody who thinks of themselves as an intelligent person who's secular to even entertain the possibility that someone died and come back to life.
And I get that, but we've already talked about the fact that we don't think that the only thing that exists is matter and motion. We as in you and I, right? Like, we believe that there's something else going on in this world that's a little bit crazy.
There's something else,
and that to, I think, exclude that, I think excludes something that you're kind of putting blinders on for. And you do have, I mean, you're right in terms of all of these ancient conventions and the ways that things were spread around. But the Gospels are written in the lifetime of the eyewitnesses. And they're written in this period of time where you have groups of individuals who could have fact-checked those things.
That's very admirable, but I think for some people it represents bonding of the community. And
you could have concerts and lectures and book clubs.
I think when they get together and they talk about all the values that Jesus proposed, if Jesus is the higher power, it gives them this sort of, again, moral scaffolding to live their life.
Yes. Well, Jesus would probably on the whole provide a fairly good moral scaffolding. Not totally, but
Right.
he was ahead of his time anyway.
So you do think he was a real person?
Most of the scholars I've talked to say he probably was. The evidence is not great, of course, but I think I don't think it's that big a deal, actually, because a wandering preacher called Yeshua or Yehoshua would it not be surprising? I mean, it's a common name,
right?
And there are plenty of wandering preachers. What would be very surprising would be if he raised Lazarus from the dead and walked on water and turned water into wine. And that, of course, did not happen.
Well, why couldn't people just drink water either? Why did they have to drink wine? He's trying to get people drunk? Like, what's that all
Well,
about?
that's a separate question. But I think the point I'm making is that it's a very big difference to say, did he exist? And maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Who cares, really? Or that's very different from saying that a miracle worker who really did do miracles rather than conjuring tricks existed.
How many people saw his body, right?
Well, Paul says that 400 people saw him all at once.
400 people saw the crucifixion?
No, saw the resurrected Jesus. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says that Jesus appeared to the disciples, and then he appeared to 400 people all at once. I mean, if we read the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Luke and Acts, so same author wrote these both documents, he says that Jesus was walking around teaching them for 40 days after he was resurrected from the dead. And so these are written within a time period when you have people who would have seen Jesus' ministry, who were there, say, at something like the feeding of the 5,000, who could have been able to verify or debunk some of these things that are being said. And you go from a bunch of scared guys who, because Jesus wasn't the only messianic figure who arose and claimed to be the Messiah.
Right.
There were a number of individuals both prior to and after Jesus, but they die and the movement dies with them.
Christianity is the one religion that you're allowed to disparage.
Yeah.
Christianity is the one religion where people, all these progressive, open-minded, leftist people, they'll embrace all these different religions until it comes to Christianity. And for whatever reason, that represents like white male, whatever it represents, colonialism, whatever it represents, it's negative.
Yeah, sure, it's gotten a bad rap. And people do feel free to beat up on it. Mm-hmm. Even I do when I see it's like, when it's not fair, when I think it's off.
Right.
Like, when they appoint some cardinal in some diocese and he's been covering up for like people who are child molesters.
Yes.
Or, like Theodore McCarrick or Cardinal Wuerl or those kind of guys. I mean.
Or the Pope.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Benedict.
Not Benny. Well, he was covering up, but so is the guy now.
Is he really?
Well, yeah.
You said that you wrote this. It's a beginner's guide, outgrowing God.
Well, it's for young people. I originally wanted to write a book for young children, and publishers didn't want to do that. So they kept pushing the age range up, and so it stabilized at about 15. But I think 14. The first chapter's been read by one 10-year-old of my acquaintance. He loved it. And I think, but really I'm hoping it'll be read by people of all ages.
There's one thing that does happen to some people that are indoctrinated very young, that the experience is so negative to them that they rebel. And then they seek out other ways of thinking, and then you find them eventually abandoning the religion. There's a woman named Megan Phelps. Do you know who she is?
I think I do.
She's
yes.
Fred Phelps from the Westboro Baptist Church. She was his granddaughter. And amazing woman.
Yes.
And she wound up communicating with people through all things Twitter.
Yes.
And met her husband.
So she rebelled against her father. Yes.
Her grandfather. Yeah, she wound up leaving the church and wound up realizing that she was trapped in some sort of a Christian cult. She's such a unique woman, and she's so kind, and she's so thoughtful and intelligent. It's hard to believe that she's only been out of this cult for a few years. I mean, Twitter's only been around for
why wasn't she ruined by it, you're saying?
Right, yeah. Why wasn't she ruined by it? And why she is so intelligent? How did she exist in that structure while being so intelligent?
I agree. But of course, I feel the same way about apparently intelligent people who believe obvious nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand.
Do you think it's possible that he didn't die? And do you think it's possible that they thought he was dead? Because that does happen. There was actually a case very recently where a guy was about to be harvested for organs. They thought he was dead, and this guy started moving again and came back to life. It's a very, very bizarre case because his family had been told that he was going to be harvested for organs. They were preparing for that.
Yeah.
And this guy comes back.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot about Roman crucifixion, and we know
brutal.
that, and we know that they did their job well.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, if you look at, say, very skeptical biblical scholars, like non-believing, atheist, agnostic Christian scholars, they will say if we can know anything about Jesus, like they'll cast a doubt on a lot of the things that we read about in the Gospels in terms of the actual historical Jesus of Nazareth. They'll say one thing we can be sure of is that he died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. Because we have not just multiple attested documents that we refer to as the New Testament, but Roman and Greek and Jewish writers refer to that claim afterwards and talk about the fact that you have this guy, and it's mocked within earliest Christianity. So one of our earliest, in fact, not one of, the earliest depiction of Jesus on the cross is called the Alexamenos Graphido. And it's probably from the end of the 1st century. And it's it depicts an individual with their arms raised in an act of worship, worshiping a man with a donkey's head who's being crucified. Whoa. And right beside it, it says Alexamenos worships his God in Greek. Whoa. And it's mocking, right? Because crucifixion was for the lowest of the low. It was for like slaves. In fact, if you were a Roman citizen, you were banned from being crucified.
Science can sometimes sound arrogant, right? It can sometimes sound like it's the discipline of saying to people, well, you're not right.
Yes, yes.
And it's not the discipline of saying you're not right. It's saying this is what we found out.
Yeah.
So I like to say that it provides a framework within which, if you want to philosophize or you want to do theology or you want to ask these deep questions about why we're here, you have to operate within that framework because it's just an observational framework.
Yes.
So everything we've said is stuff we've discovered. It's not stuff that someone made up, right? We understand nuclear physics. We can build nuclear reactors, for example. So we understand the physics of stars. So we understand that the stars built the carbon and oxygen, and we know how they did it. We can see it because, as I said before, if you look far out into the universe, you're looking way back in time. And as you look back in time, you see less carbon and less oxygen. So we have a direct observation that in the earliest universe, there wasn't any because we can see it. And now we see that there is some, and we know how it was made. So I think it's important to be humble when you're talking about science. And you're not saying this is the way that it is. I mean, you are in a sense, but it's not able to answer ultimate questions at the moment. It's not able to answer even whether the universe had a beginning or not. We don't even know that.
It's interesting. We know a lot about crucifixion, but crucifixion was seen as so disgusting. I believe it was Cicero who said that the word crucifixion shouldn't even be on a Roman man's lips. I mean, the word excruciating,
right.
X is off of in Latin, and crus, off the cross. So that's where we get that word, is because this was designed to humiliate, and it was designed to be as painful as possible. There was actually a really good article done by JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, which was done by a number of, I think it was in the 70s or the early 80s. It was done by a group of biblical scholars and then medical professionals. And so they looked at the conventions of what we do know about Roman crucifixion, and then they looked at the descriptions in the gospel to try to figure out, okay, if we could diagnose how Jesus died, how would he have died? And so they basically came up with this idea that he probably asphyxiated to death. You kind of drown in your own blood. But the chances of Jesus surviving the crucifixion, I think, are narrow to none. And the chance of him appearing 3 days later completely fine, I mean, you don't. If the first thing you do, if you survive a crucifixion and then you go and you find your disciples, the first thing you say is not, peace be with you. It's get me to a hospital. What's the term I'm looking for? He uses writing conventions of the day that would fit within regular biography that was written within the Roman world.
Well, the institution, it was instituted by Christ, but that doesn't mean that it can't be flawed. And there's a school of thought that says it isn't what it purports to be anymore. It's moved away from what it was intended to be and what it is. Almost, there's a guy called Bishop Vigano who says it's a counterfeit, parallel church. And it's running an entirely different religion. I actually don't adhere to a post-conciliar church. I adhere.
Can you define what that means?
Okay. There was an event that happened in the 60s. First, there was an event in the Vatican where they elected John the 23rd Pope, right, in 1958. I was 2 years old, right? He was elected, and it was a very funny thing that happened in the conclave. Usually there's white and black smoke that goes out of the chimneys to tell you, we have a pope, habemus papam, and the white smoke came out. And everybody cheered, and they went crazy. And then about a half an hour later, black smoke came out. That never in history has that happened, that the white smoke came out, and then the black smoke came
So
out.
white smoke means we found a new pope. Black smoke means no pope.
That's right. They'd have votes, or there'd be one reason or another, they'd have a round in the conclave, and black smoke would come out many times maybe. Maybe it would take 2 weeks. But never was it known that white smoke came out, then black smoke came out.
So what was the scenario?
That somebody was elected, and that maybe something else happened, and he was pushed aside, that someone else was put in. So it was
Power struggle.
some kind of power struggle. And of course, the man who came out was a man called Angelo Roncalli, and he was John the 23rd. Now, it's interesting to note that never had a pope taken the name of another pope ever before in history. But this man took the name of a known anti-pope from the 15th century that Cosimo de' Medici put in there as his own man. I'll get you in the chair, and then everything will be rosy. Everything will go good for business, whatever he was putting him in there for, some corrupt reason. But, and there have been corrupt men in that place before. I mean, there's Alexander VI and Julius II and Sixtus IV. I mean, some of these guys are, they're not saints.
I was asked to give a talk to some bishops in the UK about cosmology, and I said, yeah, that'll be great fun. And so I went and gave them this talk, and at the end I said, I've got some questions. So if the universe is eternal, and it might not have had a beginning, if it's eternal, what place is there for a creator? That's a good question.
Right.
They didn't have an answer, of course, right?
An eternal creator.
But I think that it might be eternal, and we might discover that. So we don't know at the moment, but we might. So I think my point is that these other human desires, it's very natural to religion's a natural thing, right? People, you see it all across the world in all different cultures. But I think that in the 21st century, religion needs to operate within that framework. If it's going to operate, there are still great mysteries, and it is appropriate to think about what it means to be human. And I've given you my view of what it means, but I don't think the problem comes when your theology or your philosophy forces you to deny some facts, some measurement. These things are measurements. We're not saying, it's not my opinion the universe is 13.8 billion years old. We measured it. It's like having an opinion between the distance from LA to New York. You can't have an opinion on that.
Right.
We know what it is. And it's the same,
Right.
It's like, these things, that people say the Earth's flat or whatever. So it isn't, and we've measured it. So it's just stop it. But that doesn't mean you can't be spiritual and you can't be religious. I would say it doesn't mean you can't believe in God or gods. That's not ruled out.
Are we entirely certain of their measurement of days?
So this is an interesting question because of the differences between when when the Gospel of John says Jesus died compared to the Synoptics, because John appears to be using the Roman convention of counting time, and the other Gospels, when they describe the timing, appear to be using the Jewish ones. And actually, if you correlate between the two, they match up pretty well. So the thing is, with Jews, any part of a day was considered a day. So 3 days and 3 nights becomes almost an idiom for any part of that day is the day. So if Jesus, and because they count evening and morning, evening to morning is the day, it's very possible that it wasn't like how we would think of 3 24-hour days, especially if he dies on Friday and wakes up on Sunday.
So that would actually make it less time than more time.
Yeah.
So it's not like he had recovery time.
Oh, no, he didn't have recovery
That's
time.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm kind of getting. It's not like it was 3 days, it was actually 3 months.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so,
no, not like that.
Then 400 people saw him afterwards.
That's the claim that Paul makes.
Paul makes it.
Yeah.
And how many different people have some sort of a recollection or a writing or something that's attributed to them of being witness to his resurrection?
Well, you have Peter, Paul, Jude, James, and Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The thing with Matthew, Mark, and Luke is that Matthew and John are attributed to direct disciples of Jesus. Luke and Mark are not. So they are not eyewitnesses within the Jesus community. In fact, Luke prefaces his gospel by saying that. He's right up front about this. He's like, hey, I'm not an eyewitness. Don't confuse me with an eyewitness. But he actually uses conventional writing.
In an astonishing twist of fate, a man named Ron Wyatt embarked on a journey that would intertwine his life with some of the most intense mysteries of biblical history. Originally a nurse anesthetist, Wyatt's career took a dramatic turn when he transitioned into the world of archaeology. But who exactly was Ron Wyatt, and what led him to make such extraordinary claims? Ron Wyatt was born in 1933 in Tennessee and worked as a nurse anesthetist for much of his life. Despite his medical background, Wyatt had a closer fascination with biblical history, which eventually led him to pursue amateur archaeology. His passion was ignited by a desire to uncover the physical evidence of biblical events. This curiosity pushed him to explore ancient sites that many believed held secrets from the past. One of Wyatt and Wyatt's first major claims was the discovery of Noah's Ark. In the late 1970s, he announced that he had found the remains of the Ark on Mount Ararat in Turkey. This claim was met with significant skepticism from the scientific community, as it lacked substantial evidence in peer-reviewed research. Yet Wyatt's assertions did not end there. He went on to claim the discovery of the true location of Mount Sinai, the site of the Israelites, crossing of the Red Sea, and even the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah. Each of these discoveries stirred controversy and debate, as many archaeologists and historians questioned the validity of his findings. Despite the criticism, Wyatt's work captured the imagination of many believers, who saw his discoveries as a validation of their faith. It was Wyatt's claim about finding the blood of Jesus Christ that truly propelled him into the spotlight. According to Wyatt, during an excavation beneath the site of the crucifixion at Golgotha, he discovered the Ark of the Covenant. This alone would have been a monumental find, but what he claimed next was even more astonishing. Wyatt stated that he found a dark, dried substance on the mercy seat of the Ark, which he believed to be the blood of Jesus Christ. The blood, he asserted, had trickled down through a crack in the rock caused by the earthquake at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. This discovery, if true, would have intense implications for both religious believers and the scientific community. The process of analyzing this blood was just as intriguing. Wyatt took the sample to a laboratory in Israel where it underwent various tests. The lab technicians reconstituted the blood and discovered something extraordinary. It had only 24 chromosomes, unlike the typical 46 found in human blood. This unusual chromosomal count suggested a divine origin, fueling further debate and fascination. But why has this discovery remained so contentious? What are the implications of finding such a significant artifact? And why has it sparked such intense debate? As we move more into Wyatt's findings and the reactions they provoked, we will uncover the layers of controversy and the terrible news that comes with it.
The site of this groundbreaking discovery is none other than Golgotha, also known as the place of the skull. This historic location, situated just outside the old city walls of Jerusalem, is traditionally believed to be the site of Jesus Christ's crucifixion. Nearby is the Garden Tomb, another significant biblical site, which has long been a focal point for Christian pilgrims. It was Jeremiah's grotto, a lesser-known location in the northern region of Jerusalem, that played a crucial role in this discovery. Controversial archaeologist Ron Wyatt said he was led by the Holy Spirit to excavate here. During an excavation in the early 1980s, Wyatt claims to have discovered a system of underground tunnels and caverns. He made his incredible discovery in these secret passageways. Wyatt recounted discovering the Ark of the Covenant, the hallowed treasure that contained the 10 Commandments according to the Bible. But the discovery didn't stop there. Wyatt noticed a dark substance on the mercy seat of the Ark, which he believed to be dried blood. He followed a crack in the rock above the site and proposed that this blood had trickled down from the site of the crucifixion. Wyatt was convinced that this was the blood of Jesus Christ, shed during his crucifixion and preserved for nearly 2 millennia. This claim sent shockwaves through both the religious and archaeological communities. The process of confirming the discovery involved several steps. Wyatt took the blood sample to a laboratory in Israel where it underwent extensive testing. The results were nothing short of miraculous. The blood was found to have only 24 chromosomes, 23 from the mother, and a single Y chromosome. This was unlike any other human blood, which typically has 46 chromosomes, suggesting a divine origin. The initial reactions to Wyatt's discovery were a mix of awe and skepticism. Many in the religious community were quick to embrace the find as a divine confirmation of their faith. For them, this discovery was the ultimate proof of the biblical narrative. The scientific and archaeological communities were not as easily convinced. The lack of peer-reviewed documentation and independent verification led many experts to question the validity of Wyatt's claims. Critics pointed out several inconsistencies and gaps in Wyatt's story. For instance, there were no detailed records of the excavation, and the precise location of the laboratory that conducted the test was never disclosed. Furthermore, Wyatt's refusal to allow independent experts to examine the blood sample only fueled the skepticism. Despite the controversy, the discovery continues to captivate the imagination of believers and skeptics alike. Could this really be the blood of Jesus Christ? And what are the implications if it is? The questions surrounding this find are as intense as they are numerous. Once reconstituted, the blood underwent a series of tests to determine its composition and origin. The first shock came when the lab confirmed that the sample was indeed human blood. This was expected, but what came next was astonishing. The technicians proceeded to extract white blood cells and place them in a growth medium, keeping them at body temperature for another 48 hours. This step was highly unconventional, as dried blood is typically considered dead and incapable of cellular growth. When the time came to examine the blood under a microscope, the results defied all expectations. The lab technicians discovered that the white blood cells were viable, but also actively dividing. This led to the stunning claim that the blood was still alive. But what does alive mean in this context? Essentially, it suggested that the blood's cellular structures were intact enough to function as they would in a living organism, a finding that challenged conventional scientific understanding. Jerusalem, a city steeped in history and tradition, holds a special place in the hearts of billions worldwide. Its ancient streets are home to some of the most significant religious sites in Christianity. These sites, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Garden Tomb, and Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity, are important for their historical value, but also for their intense spiritual significance. These locations are believed to be touchstones of Jesus Christ's life, from his birth to his crucifixion and resurrection. One of the lesser-known yet intensely significant sites is the Monastery of the Flagellation. This monastery is traditionally believed to be the place where Jesus was scourged by Roman soldiers and crowned with thorns. Located in the heart of Jerusalem, the monastery serves as both a place of worship and an archaeological hub. The chocolate-brown habit of the Franciscan friars and the ancient relics within its walls tell stories of faith and history intertwined. Father Eugenio Aliata, a Franciscan friar and professor of Christian archaeology, is a key figure at the Monastery of the Flagellation. His office is filled with excavation reports, measuring reels, and other tools of the trade, embodying the fusion of faith and science. Father Aliata has dedicated his life to protecting and excavating ancient religious sites in the Holy Land. His perspective offers a unique blend of devout faith and rigorous scientific inquiry. Tradition gives more life to archaeology, and archaeology gives more life to tradition. Father Aliata says, showing the symbiotic relationship between the two. In the Holy Land, where tradition is severally rooted in the soil, archaeology often follows the paths laid out by centuries of belief and devotion. This approach respects the spiritual significance of these sites, but also enriches the historical narrative with tangible evidence. For example, the Pool of Bethesda, where Jesus is said to have healed a paralyzed man, was long considered a myth by many scholars. It wasn't until archaeologists discovered the remains of this ancient pool beneath layers of history that the biblical account was given archaeological credence. This discovery exemplifies how tradition and archaeology can validate each other, revealing closer truths about the past. Father Aliata's work often leads him to explore these layers of history. He acknowledges that finding direct archaeological evidence of Jesus Christ is rare and challenging. He argues that dismissing the historical trace of Jesus based on the absence of evidence is flawed. You can't say Jesus doesn't have a trace in history, he asserts, emphasizing that even without concrete artifacts, the impact of Jesus' life is undeniable. The role of tradition in guiding archaeological work cannot be overstated. Sites like the Garden Tomb and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre are revered for their historical claims, but for their ongoing spiritual significance to millions of pilgrims. These locations are living statements to the enduring power of faith and tradition. For many reasons, including this miracle, tourists flock to Jerusalem and Bethlehem from all over the world. These holy towns are historical sites and living embodiments of religion. Every year, thousands of people travel to Bethlehem, especially during the Christmas season, because it is widely thought to be the birthplace of Jesus. Many visitors travel to the Church of the Nativity, which has a silver star marking the site of Jesus' birth, in order to walk on sacred ground and have a highly spiritual experience. Similarly, Jerusalem holds a special place in the hearts of believers. Sites like the Via Dolorosa, the path believed to be walked by Jesus on his way to the crucifixion, and the Mount of Olives, where he prayed before his arrest, draw pilgrims seeking to walk in the footsteps of Christ. These pilgrimages are about visiting historical sites. They are spiritual journeys that renew and strengthen the faith of those who undertake them. The diversity of modern Christian practices is as vibrant as the faith itself. From the solemn processions of Catholic devotees in Spain to the exuberant gospel choirs of African American churches in the United States, Christianity manifests in myriad forms. In Indonesia, for example, Christians rise from their baptism in the Jordan River, wearing gowns depicting Jesus undergoing the same rite. This global tapestry of worship emphasizes how the faith that began as a small Jewish sect has grown into the world's largest and most diverse religion, with over 2 billion adherents. Yet despite this diversity, the core of Christian faith remains the same. The belief in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, his death and resurrection, forms the foundation that unites all Christians. This shared belief is what drives millions to embark on pilgrimages, seeking a closer connection with the divine. Pilgrimages to the Holy Land offer a unique opportunity to experience the biblical narratives firsthand. Walking through the ancient streets of Jerusalem, visiting the Sea of Galilee where Jesus performed miracles, and standing in the Garden of Gethsemane where he prayed, pilgrims find themselves immersed in the sacred history of their faith. These journeys often evoke intense emotional and spiritual responses, reinforcing the timeless relevance of the Christian story. But what makes these pilgrimages truly special is the sense of community they foster. People from different cultures and backgrounds come together, united by their faith. This unity is palpable during events like the Holy Fire Ceremony, where thousands of candles are lit from a single flame, symbolizing the light of Christ spreading across the world. It's a powerful reminder that despite the differences in practices and traditions, the essence of the faith remains universal. As we continue to see the modern expressions of ancient faith, it becomes clear that these practices are more than just rituals. They are intense declarations of belief, connecting the past with the present and believers with the divine. What other traditions and practices continue to inspire faith in today's world? How do these pilgrimages shape the lives of those who undertake them? Jesus of Nazareth, the figure at the heart of Christianity, spent his early years in the small village of Nazareth, situated in the rolling hills of Galilee. Archaeological excavations in Nazareth have revealed a modest agricultural community typical of the first century. The findings include simple stone houses, agricultural terraces, and ancient cisterns, painting a picture of a humble village life. These discoveries provide a backdrop for understanding the early environment that shaped Jesus. Just 3 miles from Nazareth lies Sepphoris, a bustling city that served as the Roman provincial capital of Galilee during Jesus' youth. Unlike the rural simplicity of Nazareth, Sepphoris was a hub of Greco-Roman culture, featuring grand buildings, theaters, and intricate mosaics. Archaeologists have unearthed extensive ruins, including a Roman villa adorned with the famous Mona Lisa of Galilee mosaic. This proximity to Sepphoris suggests that Jesus and his family were likely influenced by the broader cultural and economic activities of this significant urban center. The cultural and political landscape of Galilee during Jesus' time was complex and dynamic. Galilee was under Roman occupation, which imposed heavy taxes and strict controls on the local population. This environment of oppression and social unrest would have sincerely affected the communities living there. The Roman influence was evident in the infrastructure and administrative systems, but also in the cultural exchanges that occurred through trade and interaction. This setting provides crucial context for understanding Jesus' teachings and actions. Some scholars, like John Dominic Crossan, suggest that Jesus was a religious figure, but also a social revolutionary. Crossan, a prominent historian and theologian, argues that Jesus' message was inherently subversive, challenging the socio-political norms of his time. According to Crossan, Jesus advocated for a radical reordering of society based on principles of justice and compassion, directly opposing the oppressive Roman regime and the collaborating Jewish elite. Crossan's theories are supported by archaeological and textual evidence indicating that Jesus' message resonated with the marginalized and oppressed. His teachings emphasize the importance of caring for the poor and challenging the status quo, which aligns with the socio-economic conditions of Galilean society. The parables and actions of Jesus, such as dining with tax collectors and healing the sick, can be seen as acts of defiance against the established social order. The interplay between Galilean culture and Roman influence is further illustrated by the discovery of ritual baths and Jewish stone vessels in Sepphoris. These findings indicate a strong Jewish presence maintaining religious practices despite the pervasive Greco-Roman culture. This duality of cultural influences would have shaped Jesus' worldview, merging Jewish traditions with a critique of Roman imperialism. As we piece together the archaeological findings from Nazareth and Sepphoris, a more nuanced picture of Jesus' early life emerges. He was a product of a rural Jewish village, yet he was also exposed to the cosmopolitan environment of Sepphoris. This blend of influences likely contributed to the development of his revolutionary teachings and his ability to connect with diverse audiences. In the quest to uncover the historical Jesus, several significant archaeological discoveries have provided valuable insights and sparked intense interest. Among these are the findings in Capernaum, the discovery of the Jesus boat, and the ossuary of Caiaphas. Each of these discoveries sheds light on different aspects of Jesus' life and the world in which he lived. Capernaum, often referred to as the town of Jesus, was a small fishing village on the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee. It played a crucial role in Jesus' ministry and is mentioned frequently in the New Conclusion. Archaeological excavations in Capernaum have revealed a well-preserved first-century synagogue and numerous residential structures, offering a glimpse into the daily life of its inhabitants. One of the most significant finds in Capernaum is the discovery of what is believed to be Peter's house. This humble dwelling, identified through extensive archaeological research, was transformed into a place of Christian worship by the 2nd century. The house's stone walls were plastered over, and household items were replaced with oil lamps, indicative of a gathering place for early Christians. In the 4th century, a church was built over the site, further solidifying its significance. The fact that Peter's house has been located is significant because it offers a concrete link to one of Jesus' closest disciples. This exact house became a major point of Jesus' ministry when the Gospels relate how he healed Peter's mother-in-law there. The early Christians' respect for the location and their determination to maintain its holiness are demonstrated by the conversion of the dwelling into a house of worship. In 1986, a severe drought in Israel led to the remarkable discovery of the Jesus boat along the shores of the Sea of Galilee. 2 brothers from a nearby kibbutz stumbled upon the remains of an ancient boat while searching for artifacts in the exposed lake bed. Archaeologists quickly recognized the significance of the find and undertook an emergency excavation to preserve the fragile vessel. Carbon-14 dating confirmed that the boat dated back to the 1st century, the time of Jesus. Measuring about 27 feet long and 7.5 feet wide, the boat could accommodate about 15 people, making it similar to the fishing boats mentioned in the Gospels. The discovery provided a rare and tangible link to the daily life of fishermen in Galilee, including Jesus' disciples, many of whom were fishermen by trade. The Jesus boat is significant for its historical value, but also for its symbolic connection to Jesus and his disciples. The Gospels describe several instances where Jesus taught from a boat, calmed a storm, and performed the miracle of the great catch of fish. The boat serves as a powerful reminder of these events and the setting in which they took place. Another groundbreaking discovery is the ossuary of Caiaphas, a limestone bone box unearthed in a Jerusalem tomb in 1990. The ossuary is inscribed with the name Joseph, son of Caiaphas, identifying it as belonging to the high priest who played a significant role in the trial and crucifixion of Jesus. According to the Gospels, Caiaphas was the high priest who conspired to arrest Jesus and handed him over to the Roman authorities. Caiaphas's ossuary's discovery is noteworthy for a number of reasons. First of all, it bridges the gap between historical truth and biblical narrative by offering first-hand archaeological evidence of a significant character named in the 1st chapter of the Bible. It provides information about the socio-political climate and customs surrounding burial in 1st century Jerusalem. The ornately decorated ossuary reflects the high status of Caiaphas and his family. It serves as a poignant reminder of the historical context in which Jesus lived and the powerful figures who shaped the events leading to his crucifixion. As we explore these significant archaeological finds, we gain a higher understanding of the historical Jesus and the world he inhabited. Each discovery adds a layer of context and authenticity to the biblical narrative, inviting us to reflect on the intense impact of these ancient artifacts. Biblical archaeology, while fascinating and revealing, is fraught with challenges and controversies. Balancing faith and science is a delicate act, one that demands rigorous scrutiny and respect for both belief and empirical evidence. The field of biblical archaeology often finds itself at the intersection of faith and science. Archaeologists like Father Eugenio Aliata, who are also men of faith, navigate this terrain with a unique perspective. They strive to uncover historical truths while respecting the spiritual significance of the sites they excavate. This balance is not always easy to maintain. Scientific methods demand hard evidence and repeatable results, while faith often relies on belief without proof. This dichotomy can lead to tension, especially when archaeological findings challenge long-held religious beliefs. For instance, the discovery of the Pool of Bethesda validated a biblical account once thought to be myth. Such findings can strengthen faith by providing tangible evidence of biblical narrative. Conversely, the absence of evidence for certain events or locations described in the Bible can sow doubt and fuel skepticism. This ongoing balancing act underscores the complexities faced by those who tread the line between faith and scientific inquiry. The influence of politics and religion on biblical archaeology is intense and often controversial. Many significant archaeological sites are located in politically sensitive regions, such as Jerusalem. The control and interpretation of these sites can become a battleground for political and religious ideology. Governments and religious groups may fund or obstruct excavations based on how findings align with their agendas. Ron Wyatt, for instance, generated both excitement and skepticism when he claimed to have found the Ark of the Covenant in the blood of Jesus. Some thought his research was hidden because it might lead to disputes between different religious groups. Political factors can influence archaeological study, as demonstrated by the purported intervention of the Israeli authorities. Religious influence can also shape archaeological endeavors. Sites like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Garden Tomb are maintained and interpreted by religious organizations. These groups have vested interests in promoting certain narratives that affirm their faith traditions. While this can lead to valuable preservation efforts, it can also result in biased interpretations of archaeological evidence. The interplay between skepticism and faith is a central theme in biblical archaeology. Discoveries like the ossuary of Caiaphas or the Jesus boat can bolster faith by providing physical connections to biblical figures and events. These finds are often met with skepticism from the scientific community, which demands rigorous verification and peer-reviewed research. Skeptics argue that some archaeological claims are driven more by a desire to validate religious texts than by objective scientific inquiry. They caution against accepting findings at face value without thorough investigation. This skepticism is essential in ensuring the credibility and integrity of archaeological research. On the other hand, faith communities may view these discoveries as affirmations of their beliefs, regardless of scientific scrutiny. The belief in the divine and the miraculous often transcends the need for empirical proof. For believers, the spiritual significance of these findings can be more important than their scientific validation. This tension between skepticism and faith can lead to polarized views on archaeological discoveries. While some celebrate these findings as confirmations of their faith, others remain cautious, awaiting more definitive evidence. This dynamic reflects the broader relationship between science and religion, where each can inform and challenge the other. These are difficult questions to answer, and we must approach them critically and with an open mind as we continue to look more into the field of biblical archaeology. What further findings might be made, and how would they affect our perceptions of faith and history? The journey through the challenges and controversies in biblical archaeology is far from over. Join us as we uncover more stories that illuminate the complex relationship between faith, science, and history, shedding light on the enduring quest to understand our shared past.